What up, fellas? Yes, sir.
What is up, Phoenix Suns fans? Thank you for joining me on this Monday night. Thank you for everybody who's going to be tuning in live or watching along later. About like 30-40 minutes ago, I just got done recording with my good friend and guest of today's show, Super Mario Hoops. We did something for his channel, and it was a lot of fun. And then he was nice enough to join me on very, very short notice. So I just said, hey, I'm about to go live too. You want to join me and talk some Suns, talk some NBA? So he was nice enough to join me today. So I'm going to introduce my guest here. I'm going to let him properly introduce himself. Super Mario Hoops 24. How you doing, my friend? It has been so long. I know we both have been super busy. So how you doing, man? Do you want to introduce yourself and tell people where they can find you at and what you've been doing on your channel as of late?
Yeah, man. Like I said, I mean, it's been a few months. I think I had you on like my my GeoGuessr NBA thing last, and I think I was on an off-season stream for you as well. So it's always great to collab with you. If you guys aren't familiar with me, I post NBA content as well. I got my own show. I do it like basically once a week, do some NBA debates, NBA draft stuff, and also been doing some IRL content lately, even more than just basketball. I've been doing a lot of basketball, but even did dodgeball, got something else cooking very soon. So definitely want to go check me out over there. Would appreciate it, but always glad to collab with my guy Suns Geek anytime, any chance that I get. So yeah.
Well, thank you again, man. Seriously, I know it was like very late notice. Like I said, we were doing something for your channel, which I'm sure that episode will be out soon. And I was like, hey, you want to come join me on my show and talk some Phoenix Suns? So seriously, man, thank you for being here. And really excited to talk all things Suns with you. And like I said, you guys, later in the show, we are going to be talking NBA as well. Lots of stuff going on in the league. And just really excited for today's show. Also, you guys, if you have a comment or a question, doesn't have to just be Suns related, let us know. Put it in the chat right now. Let us know. And thank you to everybody who is going to be joining along live or watching later on. So let's just get into it, man. This is the latest Phoenix Suns news. And in my personal opinion, we had sort of a lot of Phoenix Suns news today. The biggest news, though, and I know a lot of Suns fans might be happy about this, is Jusuf Nurkic will be reevaluated in 1 week. Now, I like to remind fans that just because you're reevaluated doesn't mean you're going to be coming back necessarily. Just means they're going to take a closer look at you, and maybe you'll be on the right track to come back. So what the report is saying is that he'll be out with a right thigh contusion. Now, I'm not a doctor. I don't even know what that means, but it's a thigh injury. And I also know he's been dealing with some ankle injuries and some other stuff. I believe Mike Budenholzer talked about that as well. And Super Mario, spoiler alert, we talked about this a little bit on your channel, and I have talked about it so much on my channel and in my videos, that Jusuf Nurkic is, how do I put this kindly, the hot topic, if you will. He is very debated, and not necessarily in a good way. He gets slandered a lot on Suns Twitter, and Suns fans are very critical of Jusuf Nurkic. And I actually pulled up his stats before we went live. He's averaging nearly 9 points a game, nearly 10 boards a game, 1.3 assists. But what surprised me, Super Mario, was he's only playing 24 minutes per game. And I mentioned this on your channel a little bit. He does get played off the court here and there. So I'm going to have a few questions for you. We're going to keep this on Jusuf Nurkic, though. But let me just start off. I don't know how many Suns games you watched this season or last season, but what are your thoughts on Jusuf Nurkic just in general? And I guess really the main question is, do you think he's a good fit with this team?
I feel like I've probably watched about half of them, I would say.
That's
you know
enough.
what I mean? Yeah, I mean, you know how I've stood on like Jusuf Nurkic at least the past couple of years. I feel like, just in general, he was a pretty quality player until that injury in Portland. And I feel like he's just never really been the same player, especially like these recent years with the Suns. I just feel like he's not, he's just not, as mobile defensively as maybe he once was.
Yeah.
Maybe like I would even argue he's not even really the kind of passer he once was. It seems like he's a little bit loose with the ball.
Especially
that was
this season.
Yeah, and that was one of his best skills, like, early on. Like, that's why, like, people, said, like, is it him or is it Jokic at one point? Like, and you had to choose because, Jokic was seen as the better passer, but it's not like he wasn't one. So I feel like he's just like, it's very, like, his offense is kind of like faded behind him a little bit. And I feel like there's other guys on this team that can play that role, like, especially like in a pick and roll scenario. I just don't know if he's the best threat, like, moving forward, especially when you have guys that are more athletic, more mobile defensively. And I think him being out is really going to give them like an opportunity to kind of like showcase that a little bit more.
So before we move on to that showcase topic, I guess the question is, and again, we're recording this on December 2nd, 2024. I like to remind fans of that just in case they're watching in the future,
Mhm.
As of right now, do you think Jusuf Nurkic should be traded? And I say that because if it were up to Suns Twitter, thank goodness Suns Twitter is not the GM of this team, because they would have traded Jusuf Nurkic like yesterday. And, I don't think it's as bad as Suns fans make him out to be. Yes, he gets played off the court. Yes, he's inconsistent. I'm glad you mentioned the passing, because I do agree with you. The passing hasn't been as effective as I think it was last season. I mean, I think I said it, like 1.4 assists or something like that. I don't know, but I still feel like he is a good fit with this team. And to an extent, we do play better and win a lot of games when he plays well, like when he has those monster double games. But again, there's some games he gets played off the court. He is a little inconsistent. He's not as mobile as he once was, not as great as a defender as he once was. And I've talked about this a lot on my channel, man. I've been eating crow lately. His numbers have been terrible. He's been bad.
Yeah.
So I personally don't think right now he will get traded, but maybe a couple short months from now, maybe he will. What do you think, though? Do you think they should trade him, or do you think they should maybe wait a little bit?
I mean, I think realistically, he probably won't get traded. Although I think it's definitely not bad to seek out trying to trade someone. I mean, like,
Yeah.
like you said, like, the consistency is probably the biggest issue with him because, to your point, like you said too, like, a lot of the games that you guys are most successful in is when he plays well. But
Yes.
it's like, imagine if you had someone in that spot who's consistently playing well. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's shooting like 42% from the field this year.
Sounds
That
about right.
that's not going to cut it for a 7-footer. You know what I mean? And like, just, I feel like his this even goes to the passing thing, but even like sometimes when he wants to like float around the perimeter a little bit more, like, just his IQ, like, offensively has not really been there in recent years. And of course it's shown up this year too. Like, he's most effective, I feel like, when he has his back to the basket against mismatches. You know what I mean? Or as a roller and like finding the seams. Like, I feel like he's kind of been like a little bit too loose with the ball usually in those scenarios. And I feel like that's kind of like hurting the Suns too. Whereas he also isn't really much of like a lob threat. And I feel like when you have a guy like Tyus Jones or like Monte Morris, like, with the ball, it's like they probably want a guy they could throw the ball up to as well. Not necessarily like he's basically a guy you can only throw bounce passes to in a pick and roll scenario. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, you believe that he's, that he and the Suns are better when he's back to the basket and everything. That's sort of one reason I was really excited for Jusuf Nurkic coming into the season, because there was all these like clips of Nurkic practicing his threes, launching his threes. And I feel like we've barely seen him back to the basket unless he's absolutely forced to do it. And you mentioned how he's not much of a lob threat either. I 100% agree. He's maybe caught 2 or 3 lobs this year. I'm not even joking. It's what it feels like anyways.
That's impressive.
It's more of like,
even caught that many.
it's like you mentioned, he is more of like a bounce, they have to bounce pass it to him off the pick and roll and everything. I agree. So I just had to pick your brain about it because, again, it seems like every day someone's coming up with a fan-made theory about Jusuf Nurkic should be traded. We should trade Nurkic for this guy or that guy. And in my head, I'm just like, y'all, like, these teams aren't going to say yes to that. A trade has to make sense for both teams. And I know you know that for a fact. So I was just curious what your thoughts were on that, man. I mean, he's obviously been a big topic of discussion all season long. I do personally think that a lot of the quote slander is unnecessary. And Nurkic recently had some comments about that. I'm not sure if you saw that, but he definitely does pay attention to Twitter and what people say about him. And you know what? In a way, I don't really blame him. You know what I mean? I don't know if you and I are going to agree with this or not, but that's one thing I love about Kevin Durant, man, is he will fire back at fans, including Suns fans. Like no Suns fan is safe is pretty much what I'm saying, including me. So I get why Nurk does it. Does he take it maybe a little too personal? Probably. Does he need to play better? Absolutely. Then maybe you won't be in so many trade conversations. I don't know. So moving on, though, we're going to kind of move on from Jusuf Nurkic here, although it kind of Jusuf Nurkic. So this is a great opportunity for Phoenix Suns rookie Oso Ighodaro to shine. Now, I'm not saying he's going to start in every game. I'm not saying he's going to get like 30, 35 minutes a game, although last game I think he got like 32 minutes and he played extremely well, despite what the numbers might say. This is Oso Ighodaro's time to shine. You know, I mentioned this on your channel. This is a guy who, you know, was drafted in the second round, but we traded for. We had him on our radar. That's how important he was to the Phoenix Suns. This is a very mature player, a very smart kid on and off the court, high IQ. Kevin Durant has said great things. Devin Booker has said great things about him. This kid plays hard. Defensively, grabs rebounds. He's a smart passer, a good lob threat, good cutter, man. I could talk about Oso forever. What have you seen so far from Oso Ighodaro? And do you agree that this is his time to shine?
It's funny because when you were just talking about his come up, I remembered that it was the draft is like the last thing we did on your show. Cause I remember when he got drafted, that's
I was like, who?
Yeah.
I didn't even know who he was.
You're talking about, and then like now he's like such, I mean, it's just like crazy. Like, I guess like how far he's come, but I do think he has that versatility. Like, I think offensively, he can do a lot of things. He's a perfect complementary piece to a Tyus Jones or a Monte Morris, I would say.
Yes.
And I think like that's the important thing too. When you have three guys on your team who are going to need the ball in their hands as kind of scorers, maybe they're going to be cutting off the ball or something like that, but they're going to have the ball most of the time nonetheless in Durant, Booker, and Beal. Like, having another option like that, like, really makes your team lethal. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of think of like the connection that they had in Utah and that they have in Minnesota too, but like with like Mike Conley and Gobert and stuff like that. Like, you know, you have your like main scoring options like around there, like an Anthony Edwards or like a Donovan Mitchell then, but it's like you also have like, you know, a go-to threat if you need a quick two or something like that. I just think he's like a really versatile player, like I said, and I feel like he will only get better. I think he had what was it, like against the Timberwolves? He had a pretty good game, and I think it was against Orlando, maybe. Or
yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Something like that. Yeah, like I know he had a few good games like recently.
Yes.
And I mean, I even told you, I feel like, you know, I guess like we kind of stopped talking about Nurkic, but like the more Oso keeps getting more opportunity, like that gap's only going to get like this, and you're going to look at the upside that one player has as opposed to the other guy who's maybe injured or, you know, kind of on the down side.
That's a great answer, man. It's great insight. And one thing that I'm excited for is Oso could potentially be like a long-term fit at like center, maybe even power forward, if you will. Because you said the key word, man. He is so versatile.
Yeah,
that's how he was in college. That's how he is now. And he hasn't even played in like 25 games yet. You know what I mean? Like, this kid is still growing before our eyes. And I love Abraham's comment right here. Oso is experiencing every rookie's dream by getting valuable minutes. The key word in that is valuable minutes. I mean, you talked about him being out there with the big three. I've mentioned how Devin Booker loves him. Kevin Durant loves him. And you know, there's been times where Oso will like have the ball. It kind of looks like it's about to be a broken play. And then somehow it either ends up in an Oso or assist or an Oso bucket, because he's just that well connected with this team. He's a great passer. I was a little concerned at one point because in college, he had this sort of what I call like a flip shot where he like takes it down, just like throws it up. It's been
Yeah, I
working
remember
for
that.
him in the NBA. I'm surprised. I thought he was going to get like swatted out of there. It works, and
Mhm.
he is so comfortable shooting it. This kid can only continue to grow his game. I'm super excited. And again, man, I'm going to pull up the Suns schedule just real quick, kind of on the fly here. This is his chance to prove it because we play tomorrow against Wemby and the Spurs. Maybe we'll talk about them a little bit later. Then we play the Pelicans on Thursday. Now, I know they've been injured, but that might be a really good game for Oso Ighodaro. Then we play the Miami Heat, and then we're going to play the Orlando Magic, who we're definitely going to talk about later. And then we'll have to see what happens with the cup results, but that's definitely a 4-game stretch where Oso Ighodaro could potentially start. I have no sources on that. You know how it is with starting lineups. Sometimes they don't even know until like an hour before the game. Could potentially start, get a chunk
Yep.
load of minutes, prove that he deserves to be in the rotation. I am super excited for Oso Ighodaro. Any final thoughts just in terms of like Jusuf Nurkic in general, his injury, Oso, like just any final thoughts on all of that before we move on?
Mm, not much, but I mean, I don't know. I just feel like Oso is like a really important piece to this team. And
Yes.
this is a really like just in general, like this whole draft class has really shown me already that there's going to be a lot of sleeper people that actually break out. Because a lot of the top people, like even like Jared McCain or Jalen Wells, weren't like high draft picks either.
Yep.
So Dalton Connect too. Like, and Oso, I feel like is another one who is kind of like, up there. And I'm curious to see like how I guess the media gravitates toward him by the end of the season because I think he's only going to get more and more minutes. Like I know, I mean, even like Mason Plumlee is in the mix of the like log jam there, but
Yes.
like I feel like by the end of the season, like he's Oso's only going to continue like elevate in that rotation, whereas you're going to see maybe minutes dwindle for a Plumlee or a Nurkic,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
unless they're playing like a really physical team that like you just kind of like maybe it's like, oh well, it's your welcome to the NBA type of moment.
And I kind of like how you worded that. I think Oso and Ryan Dunn, I know we haven't talked about Ryan Dunn much on the show, but like that would be a great challenge for both of them. Kind of just throw them in the fire, even if it is sort of like a mismatch, physically or whatever.
Right.
That would be interesting. Can't wait to see what happens, man. And again, I know it's only a 4-game sample, maybe even longer, depending on the reevaluation with Jusuf Nurkic. But this really could be Oso's time to shine, man. And I don't want to sleep on Mason Plumlee, man. I don't know if you're a fan of him at all. I think he's actually been pretty good for us. Again, the numbers aren't going to say that. But when he's out there, man, good screen setter, good lob threat. For some, not for some reason, it's because he played with Monte Morris in the past, has a really good connection on the court with Monte Morris. I think he's been okay. Any quick thoughts on Mason Plumlee before we move on?
He's okay. I mean, like, I think you remember like a few years ago when you guys played the Clippers in the playoffs, and like I said at that point, I was like, he's not a bad piece to this team, but I feel like the last couple of years I've kind of I wouldn't say I've
Soured
totally
on him.
lost faith in him, but I feel like he just hasn't been the same. Like he's like about okay. Like he's okay. Like in the not so nice way. I guess he's like mid, but like that doesn't necessarily mean he's trash. But like I don't know. He's like kind of somewhere in the middle right now. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's not a bad backup to have necessarily.
Well, maybe Oso will outplay him and then he'll be Oso's backup. So we are going to move on, you guys, because we got lots more to talk about. We're already 20 minutes in, man. We are cruising through this thing.
We're
So
cooking.
I don't really know if okay. I trust the writer. I'll just say that. This is coming from Mike A. Scotto from Hoops Hype. And this is a recent, I'm going to put this in quotations, rumor, because I don't even know if it's legit or not. But Mike Scotto had some stuff come out today. I believe it was in his recent reporting, an article. I'll make sure to link it after the show. But he did mention how Josh Okogie could be a potential trade candidate. Now, this is nothing new. I feel like Josh Okogie's been rumored since like last season and all of that because he's on a very team-friendly contract. We all know what he can do defensively. I feel he's sort of improved offensively. I think he's been inspired a little bit by like Ryan Dunn and everything to be more consistent with your threes. So what I'm going to read here is just a small little quote from Mike Scotto. It says, Phoenix also re-signed Josh Okogie for rotational depth, but also to dangle his contract as a tradable asset. League sources told Hoops Hype. The Suns are paying Josh Okogie 8.8 million this year, and 7 million salary for the 2025-26 season is non-guaranteed. So 8 million per year. Next year's salary is not even guaranteed. So again, it kind of feels like Josh Okogie's been in trade rumors a lot. Have you ever bought into any trade rumors with Josh Okogie? Do you even care if he's traded? Like, what do you think, man? I know that wasn't the best phrasing of a question, but what do you think?
I mean, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Like, because it's really weird. I feel like it's a little bit similar to like when you guys had current bull Torrey Craig, where it's like at first he seemed like a valuable 3-and-D you'd want on your team, but I feel like in recent years he's kind of like lost his touch in a way, and I feel like that's kind of the thing with Josh Okogie. Like maybe never a consistent 3-point shooter, but he's definitely always been a defensive player. He's been a scrappy player for sure, especially in Minnesota and when he first got there. But I feel like right now, like at least with Budenholzer's offense, like yeah, he'll come out and he'll play hard and he'll have like a few moments every so often, but like I feel like he's not like a core piece that's like when you look at this team, if they're at full strength and you move forward to April, I don't really know how many minutes he would get,
I agree with you. And that's where I feel like we are a lot, we have more depth this year, if you will. I feel like we're a little heavier on our bench in a good way. And maybe that's a reason we haven't seen him play much this season, including Bol. I talked about it last live show. We haven't seen Bol
he hasn't played much at all. Yeah.
And I'm curious. I want to see what Bol looks like, man. Even if it's just for a few minutes, I want to see Bol play more. So I get it. If Josh Okogie doesn't get traded, I think we'll be okay. If he does get traded, curious to see what we'll get back for him and if it'll be a better fit. The tricky thing with Suns, that's why I always put it in quotations, Suns trade rumors, is because the Suns are really good at keeping things pretty in-house. I mean, unless you're my boy Flex from Jersey or maybe like one of the beat writers, like one of the Suns insiders, there's a lot of people out there that really don't know what's going on. That's why like a lot of the trades you see are just fan-made, just fans making up trades. You know what I mean? So I just was curious. That was sort of, the latest Suns news, if you will. But don't worry, guys. We still got a lot more to talk about here. And I just put in the chat, if you have a Suns or NBA-related question, it doesn't have to just be about the Suns. Ask away, you guys. Let us know, and we will try to get to your question or comment. So we're going to move on here. You want to talk a little Tyus Jones for a minute?
Let's do it.
Because, man, this guy has been better than advertised. And I took some notes earlier today. First off, he's been better than advertised. And I mean this in the highest way, like the best, most respectful way I can say it. Sometimes even I overlook him on the court because he just does everything so well. He has been better he's been as good, if not better than advertised. Mm-hmm. He literally is our quarterback out there for all you football fans. The offense is so well put together when he is on the court. He knows what spots Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal want to be in. Plus, he can score. I've been saying that since the day we got Tyus Jones. I was like, Tyus Jones can score. And you should know this, Super Mario. This guy rarely turns the ball over. And it really is noticeable when he does turn it over, especially if he has like 2 turnovers. Then you're like, yo, Tyus, what's going on, man? It'd be like a quarterback, like throwing like back-to-back interceptions. You know what I mean? So Tyus Jones has been fantastic. And I just want to make sure I'm getting these notes right. For the month of November, Tyus Jones averaged 12 points per game on 47% shooting from the field, 40.5% from 3. That's another thing. He's not afraid to take that 3-point shot. And He's averaging career second most points and assists per game. He has been fantastic this season. So again, out of the handful of games that you've watched from Tyus Jones, or even just in the past, what do you think of Tyus Jones? We don't have to spend too much time on this, but is Tyus Jones living up to expectations? And, what do you think, man?
I would say so. I mean, like, I feel like it's the unfortunate thing for him is he's been on, like, prior to this season, a lot of like watered down teams. Yeah. So it's like he's
especially
had,
last year.
yeah, no kidding. And like, it seems like he's had that efficiency, especially when it comes to like being a playmaker, facilitator, but like no one could really buy into it too much. Now you're seeing it like happen on a team that's playing so well, and he's thriving at doing so. And it's crazy too, because like, the games I've watched, like, it doesn't feel like it's too crazy, but like I do remember like certain stints. I think there were 2 stints, I think against the Lakers and against the Warriors, where like he had like back-to-back play turnovers, and I'm like, well, that's rare, from him, because it's like he just doesn't turn over the ball, and yet he still has like probably a 6-to-1 assist to turnover ratio in the season.
So
it's like you think like if I'm seeing all the turnovers, like everything else is, you know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy. So I think he's a great piece to have. I mean, I feel like we both said maybe even in the off season, like it's best to have someone else playing point guard. Not that a guy like Devin Booker can't, or like Bradley Beal can't, or even that Kevin Durant can't facilitate. But I think it's just best and easiest when you have someone else who can handle the ball like that and maybe give those guys more actions like off the ball. So I think honestly, like Beal is probably the one who benefits the most off that, to be honest.
7.2 assists per game this season and 1.1 turnover. Like I said, like his turnovers are noticeable. But like in a sort of a good way, you're like, whoa, Tyus Jones turned the ball over. This is nuts. This has never happened before, right? He's been fantastic. I appreciate your insight on that. He's been balling. Like I said, you guys, we have a few questions in the chat. We will make sure to get to those soon. So if you have a comment, question, doesn't have to just be about the Phoenix Suns. If you have an NBA related question, get active. I will try my best to get to it. But we are going to move on here, you guys. And I didn't really come up with a question on this. We're just going to kind of move on here. And I'm sure you probably get sick of talking about it from time to time, but I know you are the biggest Chicago Bulls fan that I've ever met. Can you kind of just fill us in real quick what's going on with your Chicago Bulls? Are you guys tanking? Are you guys like middle of the pack? Are you guys like winning as much games for now and then you're going to kind of bottom out? Like what's going on with the Bulls, man?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question I'm still trying to find the answer to.
That's the $1 million question.
Yeah, I mean, like, see, when we lost DeRozan this summer, I thought like, okay, like we're gonna kind of move more in a tanking direction. You know what I mean? Because like, obviously, prior to when he got there, we weren't a playoff team, and even the last few years when he was there, we weren't a playoff team either. So it's like, all right, we're definitely gonna take a backseat. Teams in the East got better, like, but we're still playing well, and I feel like at this part of the season, it's not totally a surprise because, I mean, I'm sure you even saw some of the rumors like where they said Zach LaVine is untradeable.
Yep.
You can attach a first round pick just to get rid of him, which is dumb, I think. But like, I feel like it's part of like him boosting his trade value or just his value in general. It seems like he really does like want to be in Chicago, but it's also just about proving himself. Yeah. Which also boosts his trade value. Yep. I think actually Nikola Vucevic has really had a great season. Probably the best player on our team.
A bounce back season for sure.
Yeah. I've been a little disappointed in Kobe White. It's just like part of it too is like healthy LaVine. You have like Vucevic playing well, but he just really hasn't had the season I was kind of hoping for. And I mean, obviously it's great to see like Lonzo back, and he was playing the first few games, then he got hurt again, and then he came back, and the team just plays better when he's there. And I got to shout out my guy Modest Buzelis, literally
boy like, right there.
The guy that looks like, our boy Romp 2.0 on the court. Literally.
That's great.
And he just had his best game of his career today, 20 points. So Patrick Williams just needs to stay away. Like
So before we went live, you said he had like 2 dunks back to back or something.
he had a dunk, and then like we got to stop, and then he had a 3-pointer that it was interesting because like I feel like a rookie it would be hard to recognize this. He was kind of like in the corner, and then relocating to the top of the key like that. Easy 3-pointer. And then the most impressive part to me was just the patience of a guy like that, where it's like he had the next play, it was a fast break, and I think it was Martin and might have been Ben Simmons, or it was someone else on the Nets. I can't remember exactly who. But he pump faked one of them. He took a dribble to like kind of act like he was going to do a reverse layup. He pump faked again. Then he took like a step, like it was almost like a Hakeem like move, and then he just dunked it. I was like, dude, you gotta play this guy. That's the only thing holding him back is Billy Donovan.
So feel free to cut me off or correct me if I'm wrong here. The only thing I know about the Bulls is obviously they traded DeMar DeRozan, which is the right step into the youth movement or rebuild that I keep wanting for the Bulls. But last time I checked, y'all were leading the league like in pace. And I know your guys' tempo is up from last year. I think you guys were like one of the last teams in the league last year in pace. So obviously you're embracing the youth movement, which I'm really excited for. I know Buzelis got off to a slow start in the year, but it seems like he's playing better, especially this game. I think Josh Giddey's been pretty good for you guys for the most part. I think he had a triple-double tonight.
Yep.
I know there's probably some inconsistencies here and there, but either way, you guys are embracing the youth movement. Now, me personally, I'm a Zach LaVine fan, and I will not forget his media day. This past media day, his little press conference, it was great. It was very mature. And like you said, I feel like he does want to play for the Bulls. Now, again, maybe that's upping his trade value. I think he's played pretty well this season. Like we mentioned, Nikola Vucevic having a bounce back season. Obviously going to be in trade rumors. Who knows if it's even going to happen. But I think you guys are finally in the right direction with the youth movement. And correct me if I'm wrong here. You guys kind of have to lose because like then you'll keep your pick. Do you even care about that? Like, do you want the Bulls to tank and get a really good pick? Which, by the way, it's a loaded 25 draft class this year.
It is a loaded draft class. But I'm not gonna lie. I think us getting Modest Buzelis was lucky.
Pick.
It was lucky for a few reasons. One, that he fell that far, and two, that he's part Lithuanian, which Arturas Karnisovas is as well. So I feel like, honestly, if it weren't for that, we probably wouldn't have even picked the guy, which is sad to say. Like, I just don't trust us in the draft. So It's almost like that in a way seems like a wash. But like with the players that you have that are young right now that you can count on, like Modest Buzelis, Kobe White.
Yep.
And I feel like Io has played a little bit better this year.
I know he got off to a rough start.
Yeah. He's been better this year, I will say. Josh Giddey has not played that bad, as much as we make jokes about him and stuff like that. But like
court stuff.
Right. But I do think that
he's a good player though. I like Josh Giddey.
There are young players on this team that I think are good. I kind of expected this kind of start though, that we'd be like relatively competitive, but I do think we will probably trade LaVine at the deadline this year. I think it's kind of about like waiting to boost his value. And this might even be more shocking, but I feel like we might trade Lonzo at the trade deadline this year just because he's going to be a free agent. He's probably going to want, a contract similar-ish to what he got before, maybe a little bit less he'd want to take, but I just don't think we can give him that, especially when we have so many guards on the team. I just don't know if there will be a place for him. But like you were saying about like pace, like I think that's really the biggest reason why, because we did slip a little bit down when he was out, and then we've kind of gone back up like these last couple games again since.
Well, you got all this youth movement, might as well play fast. Fast, run fast. And
you notice too, the Kings are not playing as fast. And as much as I like DeRozan, that's just his style, the half court is more where he thrives than like maybe like so much of like a fast breaker up and going tempo. So
well, we'll see what happens with the Chicago Bulls. Hopefully you guys are in the right direction with the youth movement. And even though I've been like preaching rebuild, sometimes that's what a rebuild is. You're like, we're not going to be absolutely terrible, but we're going to have a lot of young talent. We're going to be fun, young, and exciting and play very fast. So we will see what happens. Let's move on to a team who I think is almost done with their rebuild. If not, they fully are. Let's talk about the Orlando Magic, man. Oh my goodness. I have fallen in love with this team. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I don't want to sit here and sound like I'm like this big expert on them because I'm not. I haven't watched that many games, but I fell in love with this team last year. I think they won like 40 something games last year, and they made it to game 7 of the first round. They lost to the Cavaliers, but again, they lost in game 7. They went down fighting and clawing. And I want to show you a tweet, or let me see if I can pull this up here. This is not a joke. And let me lower this banner too, because we're not talking about the Bulls anymore. We're talking about the Orlando Magic.
What's going on with the Bulls? They got beat like right above that. It's
right.
What's going on?
What's going on with the Bulls? This is the Orlando Magic as of late. This is incredible. This was their month of November, pretty much. This is from November 8th to December 1st. They've had one loss. Are you kidding? That's like what, 14, 15 games?
They almost achieved no loss November.
Right? This team is insane. And Paulo Banchero, I believe he went down on Halloween night, which that sucked, by the way, because he had that 50-point game. He was dominating, and I'm sure he'll dominate when he comes back. I think they lost like 5 or 6, and then all of a sudden, bam, look at this win streak. That's like what, 6, 7 games in a row. They lose to the Clippers, and now they're on another winning streak. And I know a lot of these teams aren't great that they beaten, like the Pistons, the Hornets, no offense, but your Bulls. But still, man, you play who's in front of you. This team is dominating, man. I mentioned this earlier. Like Cole Anthony hasn't been playing well, but our boy Franz Wagner is putting up an all-NBA season, maybe an NBA all-star season. So what do you think about the Orlando Magic? Have you seen many of their games? And do you think that they can maybe be like a dark horse to contend in the Eastern Conference? I know it's a lot of questions, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's funny too, 'cause I feel like of all these games too, probably the most impressive win, even though I think we can both agree they're a little bit fake and they just lost today, is the Laker game. But just because like I literally was watching that game and I fell asleep like before it even ended. Like I was so tired that night, and they were getting beat bad in LA. The Lakers had not lost at home yet that year or all season, and they literally just took it to them down the stretch, especially Franz Wagner, who, in my opinion, right now should not only be like an all-star, not only be all NBA. Like if we ended the season today, he should be in the MVP conversation. Like he shouldn't be the leader. I think we can probably agree it's Jokic. And there's maybe a few other guys above him yet, but like I think he could even be like in that 5 to 8 range, maybe, like of who should be up there for the MVP. Like I've even said to you earlier, on like when we were doing the thing for my show, like his season, it feels very similar to like I'm not comparing Paulo to Michael Jordan. I'm not comparing Franz Wagner to Scottie Pippen, but the feeling of like the 94 Bulls when Michael Jordan was gone, and it's like, they're not going to be as good. And Scottie Pippen like had his best season ever at that point in the regular season and really stepped up. Like, and some of these other guys stepping up too, like Jalen Suggs as well.
Yes.
Like, Wendell Carter's played big.
Goga Batadze.
And I'll even say too, like, I feel like this is, even though his stats don't show it, this might be like the best season Gary Harris has had in a few years.
Yep.
Just because like he's really had some games where it's like you could argue he won them. I know
he's
they
got
got
injured a lot too over the years. That's what's been holding him back.
Jonathan Isaac, like they just have like a lot of guys.
Mo Wagner's played very well for them.
Wagner, yep. And I just think that they're a really good team. I even said like I know Celtics and Cavs are up there, probably top 2 for the East teams to look for the rest of the year. But I mean, I know there's other teams that like the Knicks, the Bucks, who can definitely be up there. I feel like Orlando has a better chance to like upset those teams than anyone else, really.
I think they are extremely well coached. They are definitely connected on the court. I believe they're connected off the court as well. I feel like these guys really do love playing for each other. They have that whole like Orlando Magic, that song and everything. And I feel like their fan base is bought in. Again, I mentioned they're well coached. I like their GM as well. I'm forgetting his name, but I've watched some press conferences with him. Great GM, great front office. And, again, in a way, they're kind of rebuilding. But when you win 47 games and you're a playoff threat, I don't really know if you're still rebuilding. This team has a lot of talent, a lot of fun. And Paulo Banchero telling 50 points before he went down. Like, this guy was, looking like an all-star. He probably still might be when he comes back. But Franz Wagner, man, geez Louise, he's been carrying them as of late, and they are absolutely dominating. So, Super Mario, we can kind of do this on the fly, man. I do have some questions saved that we can maybe do like a quick little round on here and there. But is there anything NBA related, Suns related you want to talk about? Again, doesn't have to just be the Suns. If not, we'll get to some questions and we can just kind of talk about whatever, man.
I did have one thing I wanted to talk about, but before we do that, can we pull up Tony's most recent comment? Because he said, because I know I mentioned the Knicks
about the Bucks
and the Bucks, and he said, "Have you seen how the Bucks are? They suck right now." Hey, the Bucks have actually been playing really good.
That's what I was gonna say. That
they started off terrible.
Oh yeah,
Brandon Jennings, my guy, he said I had a great conversation with Doc Rivers. Ever since then, they're like 8-1. Wow. So, which is kind of actually crazy how that's happened. But yeah, it's I think I'm not gonna say they're fully turned around, but I think that they're definitely on the right track. Like, it's different from like the Sixers, who still have really not found it. It seems like,
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say that. The other thing, though, I was going to say is, I don't know. The more I keep seeing with these games, I'm sure you saw as well, like when LeBron tied Kyle Korver on the 3-point list, for 7th. And he has not hit a 3 since. It's been 4 games, and he's 0 for 19 from 3. They've lost a lot of games, and there's a lot of people saying he might be washed. There's some people saying this might be his last season. Even guys that support him and stuff like that. I think I saw someone just say, like, this is really reminiscent of like when Kobe in his last season had like a 1 for 14 shooting game against the Warriors, and then he said, yeah, this is like going to be my last season. So I don't know what you think, if you think this is going to be his final season, because I'm not going to lie. Like, they say Father Time's undefeated, and I know he's had like a good battle with him and stuff.
Yep.
But it's looking like Father Time's got like that third win in the series. You know what I mean?
Real quick, I just want to answer real quick. I just want to talk about the Bucks, and I'll talk about the LeBron thing. Okay. They have been playing better. As David mentioned, they are 8-2 in their last 10. Giannis definitely has to be in that MVP conversation, despite what their record says, because he's been playing great. Dame's been playing better. I think they'll be okay, but I don't trust them in the playoffs. Like, even if the Bucks were healthy last year, they wouldn't have beat the Celtics, in my personal opinion. So I'm not expecting much for them, but they're turning it around.
One other thing I'll add, and then you can get to your LeBron thing, is that I trust them more if they have a healthy Chris Middleton, because Chris Middleton does show up in the playoffs. I will say that. Yeah. Even like in years when he's been hurt, but like when is he healthy anymore? Like, I know we talk about guys like Kawhi and AD being like glass man and stuff like that. Like, Chris Middleton is glass man, So
yeah. But to go back to the LeBron thing, Father Time is undefeated, and I understand LeBron, one of the greatest players ever. Year 20 or 22 or whatever it is now. He's been in the league so long. And I know the 3-point shooting thing's been bad ever since he tied or passed Kyle Korver and everything. But I feel like every time we're going to doubt LeBron, he's just going to keep proving us wrong. I don't think it's going to be his last season. Maybe next year, potentially. I can't see him going out like this. Even if he struggles throughout the rest of the season, you know what I mean? I can't see it. But we'll just have to see. Hopefully that answers the whole LeBron thing. But I don't know. I feel like it would be in his nature to kind of announce it before the season. That's what I'm saying. I was like,
which is why I'm a little like, what I mean? But I mean, he has gotten his wish of playing with his son Bronny, and it really has not looked like a great season for him. Like, this really looks like more of a season. Well, this is looking like the most obvious season where it's like this is AD's team, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
I'm sorry. Real quick, we don't have to spend too much time on all these questions because we're already 45 minutes into this thing. We are cruising. That's because you and I have done so many shows together in the past. But let's just get to some questions here. And again, we can talk about whatever you want afterwards. And since we're on the East, might as well just talk about Jason's questions here. And again, we don't have to spend too much time on this. Non-Suns question or non-Suns talk question, the East. Who thinks the Cavs can keep it up? They did beat Boston the other day. That's one of those games I actually sat down and watched it. It was an entertaining game. It was like a back and forth battle for the most part. I think the Cavs had a really good first half, and then the Celtics responded. That fourth quarter took forever. The Cavs are absolutely deep, man, but this Celtics team is so damn good, especially when they're fully healthy. Donovan Mitchell, I know that's your boy right there. He's been playing great. The Celtics are great, man. It's like two titans clashing. You know what I mean? And the Celtics haven't won a championship in forever, but they are a titan this season. So what do you think, man? Like to get to Jason's question here, can the Cavs keep it up?
Can they keep it up? I think they can. Now I guess like my thought is like where will they finish at the end of the season? Like some people were comparing them to like the 73-9 Warriors and the 72-10 Bulls.
Yeah.
They're not going to win that many games. Like we just have to call it as it is. But I think they should definitely be a 60-win team this season. And I think they could even win like maybe 63, 64 games.
I forgot to mention they won 15 straight games to start the season.
They did. The only thing that's sus is that like they did lose 2 to the Hawks. So that has me questioning like, you know, just their attention to detail in certain moments. Like maybe you get caught up in a trap game every so often. So that's why
Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, exactly. Like that game against the Nets. You mean the other night?
Yes, yes. Oh god, that was terrible.
Yeah, that
sorry,
was
I'm sorry to keep interrupting.
No, no, you're good. Yeah, like that's the only thing. But I do think their attention to detail is still at an all-time high. I've said multiple times, I don't know why so many people still don't see it, but I think Donovan Mitchell is one of the best leaders in the NBA. Like you just look at like he's conducting like a lot of the team huddles too. And this time it seems like he actually has a coach who's willing to take that initiative as well. Like previous times he did not have coaches that were willing to do that. Like he would have to do everything, and he still does do a lot, but like it's not like it's just him doing that. And I feel like everyone else in the team is confident. But the thing I was gonna say, and I'm not gonna compare the Celtics necessarily to the KD Warriors because I think those two teams match up, the KD Warriors would beat them. But in a way, they are like the KD Warriors to like this year's Cavs are like to that 2018 Houston Rockets team with Harden and Chris Paul and Capella and all those shooters, because they have a team that matches up the best with them. And while you're still probably going to lean in the Boston's favor, if they get the right games, if they make the shots on the right nights, the Cavs can beat them. They are capable of doing it. It's probably not in their favor. Like they wouldn't be the odds-on favorite in that series, but I think it's a guarantee. I think last year it would have won 6 games. Like it went 5 games with them. Donovan Mitchell got hurt midway through the series. No Jared Allen. That's definitely going 6, maybe 7, and maybe Boston still wins. But I think that them knowing that was the case and coming into this season, they're a better team. They're healthy and they have a much better coach. Like I think that that's just going to help them out, and they can do it. I think they can.
Shout out to Jason for the great question, man. And you know, I completely overlooked, you know, Kenny Atkinson has been a great coach for them. And as David recently mentioned, former Phoenix Sun, Ty Jerome has been balling for him, but it's not just him. They've had contributors, all across the board. But I think Ty Jerome's kind of the one that stands out. But
I got one gripe with Kenny Atkinson, though.
What's that?
Stop playing Yorgis Niang, bro. Please stop. I don't know.
Not a fan.
Is he trying to play him so he can get into condition? Like, I don't know. Like,
right.
Please, just no more, bro.
I was just going to end it with just saying, you know, Jared Allen's been great, Evan Mobley, et cetera, et cetera. This is a loaded team. I'm scared for when the Suns play them, just like I'm scared when we play the Celtics and all that. And just talked about the Magic. They already beat us one time this season. We got to play them again really soon. They are a great team. We'll have to see. My only thing with the Cavs, and I know this is like a cliche criticism, is they just have to prove it in the playoffs. Yeah. That's just my personal opinion. But you start off 15-0, you better prove it in the playoffs.
The other thing, too, that I did notice in the Boston game is, and I'm honestly a little surprised they won the other night because, and this is even a thing for Kenny Atkinson, it's like Darius Garland was switched on to Tatum, guarding him defensively, like almost every play. And like there were some plays down the stretch Tatum just missed. Like I wouldn't necessarily say it was Garland turning the shot. It was Tatum just missed something that he had free. And you can't allow that in the playoffs. I know that like guys like Dean Wade have missed time and Okoro's missed some time. He's not fully healthy, maybe LeVert. But in the playoffs, like you can't just let Darius Garland, like I'm trying to like think if they played Orlando again, okay? Yeah. And he has to guard Franz Wagner the way he's playing, or if he has to guard Paolo, bro, it's over for them because he is not going to guard them. They had plays in the game the other day where he was guarding Porzingis, you know? Like that. You just have to, if they can hide him the same way that, and I'm not going to say Curry is necessarily like as bad of a defender as Garland.
He competes out there.
But like
he's a point guard.
One of the biggest reasons that they were successful is that guys like Iguodala and Draymond and Clay, like during those years, and even Durant, like they would be able to hide him from those matchups. You know what I mean? So if the Cavs can do that defensively with Darius Garland, because I actually think Donovan Mitchell can hold his own. He's strong for a guy of that size. Like he can guard a Tatum. You know, he can guard a Drew Holiday, a Derek White. If they can do that, though, then they definitely stand a chance.
So we're going to move on here. We don't spend too much time on this. It's just a simple question. I sort of have an answer. Is Paul George washed? I'll start with this one. I'm going to keep it very short. Because of the injuries and because of the disastrous, and I mean disastrous season the Sixers have had so far, and I'm a Suns fan. I know about my fair share of disasters. I think it's too early to tell. I pulled up his stats. He's averaging 14 points a game, 5 boards, and 4.8 assists. I got to see him in more games. If somehow the Sixers get a little more healthier and he's still putting up those numbers, maybe. But I don't know. What do you think?
I got a good answer for this. Paul George is not washed. He is brainwashed. Why would he go to the Sixers? And not only that, okay, but like we just think about some of the times in his career when it's like when he re-signed with OKC, really didn't make too much sense. There were better options. Like I feel like just the things that he says don't really ever seem to back up or make sense of what he actually does. And I do believe, and you even remember, because when you guys played the Clippers in 2021, that was probably the best he's looked in the playoffs in a while. You know what I mean? Like that seemed like a year he was out for vengeance, but seems like ever since then, obviously he's had his injuries. I know everyone on like the Clippers side of things, they want to talk about Kawhi being injured, but they never talk about how he's just about as injured almost, it seems like lately. And not only that, but it's like he just doesn't rise to the occasion. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I just feel like he's at a point again where most of the media is going to turn on him like they did when he was with OKC, especially because they're not playing that good and he's not really playing that good. So he is, like, realistically answering the question, he is washed, because I thought he really was starting to look washed last year, like, to be honest. And going to the Sixers, I'm like, yeah, I don't see how it's really going to work. He's injured a lot. Embiid's injured a lot. Embiid is close to not even qualifying now for like the awards already. Yeah. Right? So, I mean, that team, I think they need to move in the direction of like Maxey and McCain.
Yep. I fully agree. I know our boy Romp, who covers the Sixers on his channels and stuff, agrees. My guy Philly Take with RB has been preaching it. He's like, go in the youth movement. Jared McCain, Tyrese Maxey, et cetera, build around the youth. Like, we need to move. I don't know if he's actually said we need to move on from Embiid, but I get it. Like, the smart decision going forward would probably be move on from Embiid. Maybe in a year or two, get rid of Paul George too. Not necessarily rebuild, but, you know, like I said, youth movement. So just figured I would get to that question. This isn't really a question, but we did talk about it. We were talking about it with Tyus Jones. Just going to go over this real quickly. That shouldn't even be a question. Tyus Jones made this team more fun to watch this year. You all remember last year's team, right? Disastrous turnovers, disastrous fourth quarters. Tyus Jones has been excellent.
And that was another stat too. Like,
yeah,
we were talking like how you guys are 10th in turnovers this year, and last year you guys were like 25th. Like,
exactly.
that's huge.
And it felt like we were 30th because it was awful.
Not the Bulls. No, I'm just kidding.
Not sort of Suns related, but talking about Phoenix trade rumors, Cam Johnson and hot trade talk, seeing a lot of him going to Memphis or LA.
I've also seen his name in rumors with Cleveland. And if they keep playing well, and like,
I would love that for Cleveland.
Like, he could, like, they really, a lot of fans with Cleveland really want him to fill in that like 3 spot,
dude,
which is the biggest hole right now. And if he's there, man,
dude, that would be great. Like, obviously Brooklyn is legit in full rebuild mode. They're going young. Cam Johnson is 26, 27, but like, you know, they're keeping him there for a reason. Maybe they're trying to up his trade value. And look, I haven't read enough about these reports, so I don't really have much of an insight, but I'm glad you mentioned the Cleveland thing. Dude, that would be such a good fit in my personal opinion. I watched every Cam Johnson game when he was a Phoenix Sun. This kid grew before our eyes, became a better defender, great three-point shooter, can also take the ball up here and there, not necessarily run your offense, but can take it up for you, take some pressure off the point guards, you know. Like I said, I think he's a good defender out there. Cleveland could really use his scoring. He's a very mature player. I love Cam Johnson, man. That'd be great for Cleveland.
Yeah.
Sort of final question here. Not really a question, more of a comment, but Goga Batadze, I hope I said his name right, would be a dream target. Blocks, rebounds, is only 25 on a team-friendly deal. No shot he comes to us cheap, though. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, I've seen those rumors. I've read some stuff. And I also think Orlando really likes him. I'm like, what if they don't want to get rid of him? You know what I mean? Like, they're playing great right now. I trade him. You know, it wouldn't make sense for them personally. And even if they did want to trade him, he's not going to come cheap. I see the vision, but I don't know. What, you got any thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it would be a good addition, but you'd definitely have to kind of cut ties with someone there in the big man rotation, likely a Nurkic or a Plumlee. But I'm just laughing because it's funny, like with Goga Batadze, I still have like a video on my phone of him when he was a rookie, like it was in the preseason, and like he literally dressed up as like in a Mario costume and had to do like a dance like in the preseason. And so I was just like trying to find it or something.
That's great. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. What were you gonna say? Did you find it?
Yeah, well, it's like hard to see, dang. But
it's all good. I'll full screen you. Hold on.
Let me
full screen you. You're gonna go solo here.
Might be kind of hard to see. Oh wait, hold on. I gotta replay it. He's like in a little groovy. Yeah, you see that?
You got a Mario hat on?
Yeah, he was dressed up as Mario.
That's great.
That was like when he was a rookie with Indiana. But nah, it's just funny. I do have a Suns thing that we.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you have anything else, man, I think we're pretty much caught up. Any Suns questions, topics, or any NBA related thing you want to talk about?
I know your boy John from the Suns Jam podcast. He made a tweet. Was it yesterday? And yesterday. And he said that like
I can pull it up.
Yeah. It was like 10:07 p.m. last night. I think you probably know like what tweet I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So because I know this is something I kind of wanted to talk to you about on my show. We didn't talk about a whole lot, but I think it's definitely an interesting thing.
Give me 1 second here. Was it the Bradley Beal one? Yep. Cool. Let me pull it up real quick. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I
saw that on my feed earlier today, and I'm like, oh, this would be perfect.
Yeah, I was gonna get to this at some point, but no better time than the present. I don't know why I didn't do it earlier, but yeah. So shout out to my guy John from the Suns Jam Session podcast. He had this great tweet right here. If you want to kind of lead with this one.
Yeah. So he was talking like with Beal off the bench, like the case for it maybe because Bradley Beal's 2-man lineup data reveals his most productive pairings with the bench players. You see like Beal with Allen, who, sometimes might have to start here and there, but Beal with Plumlee, Beal with Monte Morris, Beal with Oso, and then compared to Booker and KD. And I do think part of that, like at least with Booker, is like kind of just like the lineups they have around the two of them. You know what I mean? But regardless, I mean, I do think it makes a lot of sense. And I've said this before, him coming off the bench just really helps out the situation because he can still be a great starter, like, and especially as like a third option on the team. Like he could be a quality third option. But I really think if he came off the bench, he could probably be the sixth man of the year.
Yeah, and I've been, how do I say this? Not defensive necessarily. I can't see it. But then again, you've heard me say it before, numbers don't lie. And obviously these are pretty productive numbers. Now I could see a scenario, at least for right now. Remember, we're in early December. Anything could happen. And also that's another thing I want to say. This is basketball. It never stops surprising me. Anything could happen. I personally don't see Bradley Beal coming off the bench right now, but I could see a scenario where obviously he's starting, but the first time out or first substitution you're able to make, he comes out right away and then comes back with the second unit. The only way I can see Bradley Beal right now, I know you're going to get sick of me saying that, right now, coming off of the bench, is if he is convinced by James Jones, Mike Budenholzer. I almost said Matt Ishbia. I'm sure Matt Ishbia would be present for that conversation. He is fully convinced by the coaching staff and our GM that you need to come off the bench. Here's why. Right. And he would have to also agree because Bradley Beal, even this past media day, has gone on record saying, I will do whatever the team needs me to do. Now, I don't think that necessarily meant I'll come off the bench for you. But like we're paying this guy $50 million. We just traded for him. I can't see it right now. But that's why these, NBA scouts and coaches and GMs get paid millions and millions of dollars because they know a lot more than we do. But this is a great stat from my guy John over at the Suns Jam Session podcast. I don't know if that makes sense what I said, but I don't see it yet.
It does. I mean, the one thing I think, and I know like that's a big thing, like what you said, that I feel like a lot of front offices will look at is like, we're paying this guy so much, like we've got to start him, we got to play him starter minutes and stuff like that. Like, I think honestly, that's what the Nets are saying. And the Nets have played good, but it's like they maybe feel obligated, like we got to play Ben Simmons. You know what I mean? Like, but like, and obviously Beal is a much better player than a Ben Simmons, but I feel like it needs to be more like thought of, or it's like you're investing in this team in total for the goal of a championship, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, well, even if that means he needs to be the $60 million sixth man, like, which that would be a crazy nickname.
Right? But, I kind of like that actually now.
The 60 million sixth man. No,
bring him off the bench.
Like, I mean, if that's what it takes, like, then I guess so be it. But I mean, like you said, like, I don't know like what his like headspace is at, if he's ready to come off the bench or not.
Yep.
But if he is ready to come off the bench and like that conversation has been had, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea. If it goes awful, I mean, you'll probably make that change back pretty quickly. You know what I mean? But I feel like it'd be good because you're going to stagger out things more often.
Yep.
And let's not forget, like, this is literally like 3 years ago, this guy averaged 30 points a game.
Exactly.
So you can't tell me that he's, not capable of maybe scoring at a 20-point per game pace with the other guys around, especially if he has a guard like Tyus Jones or Monte Morris by his side. And if he's playing with like Oso too, like, so.
And again, I sort of see the vision at times, like there's been people also that are like Jusuf Nurkic should come off the bench. I see the vision with that as well, but I'm like, I just don't see it because of the contract and everything. And one thing that I know I'm going to sound like a biased homer here, but one thing that I think that gets overlooked with Bradley Beal, especially this season, because everyone just talks about the injuries. Oh, Bradley Beal's always hurt. Bradley Beal's always hurt. He's having a good season when he plays. 18 points per game, nearly 40% from three, and he's shooting 50% from the field. He's had some really good games for us. He seems more happier this year and more engaged because he's obviously not the point guard anymore, or one of the point guards, if you will.
Mhm.
Less pressure off of him. Mike Budenholzer had a great talk with him this past summer. And I'm glad you mentioned the 30 points per game, because Mike Budenholzer talked about that. He's like, I want to see the Bradley Beal that we used to be like scared of in Washington. You know what I mean? I'm paraphrasing. That's pretty much what he said. So we'll see, man. I don't personally see it myself. I could be wrong. Only time will tell. Bradley Beal off the bench. If you're watching later, let us know in the comments, should Bradley Beal come off the bench? So Super Mario, I think that's it, man. Do you got anything else? If not, man, do you want to tell the people where to find you? Any final thoughts? This is your time to talk.
I got 2 more things real quick, just NBA related. They could be really quick.
Yeah.
First, on the Clippers' behalf, I'm shouting out Jeff Van Gundy.
Yes.
Because he needs a lot of credit for how well they've been playing so far this year.
They've been playing better, too.
Don't give any of that credit to Ty Luz. That's my new nickname for him, is Ty Luz.
Ty Luz.
And I even met Ty Lue, but like, come on. So no, we need to give more credit to Jeff Van Gundy. And the other thing is too, like, I think we can all agree Jimmy Butler is washed. Like, come on. He is washed.
I'll just say it wouldn't shock me if Jimmy Butler gets traded. That's all I'm going to say.
Or leaves this summer.
Or leaves, yeah.
But, yeah, I just think that just wanted to spotlight those things. But again, I appreciate you having me on the show. It's always a good time. And yeah, like I said beforehand, if you guys want to find me, you can check me out at Super Mario Hoops 24. On YouTube, you know, making NBA content, NBA debates, you know, stuff with my guy Suns Geek, some IRL stuff, any sports content. You better believe I'm gonna be doing it. And then I also, you know, check me out on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok too. I do post stuff on TikTok.
I've seen your TikToks.
I feel like people, maybe it's a little slept on for me, but definitely go check that out as well. You know, we're staying in the content game, and yeah, it's always a blast.
I already have your YouTube channel linked in my description, but afterwards I'll make sure to add your TikTok. I've seen your TikToks and stuff, and shameless plug here, I post a lot to TikTok, not as consistently, but I try to post at least once a week. So again, you guys, all the links are down below, and I will add them later. And again, Super Mario, can't wait for your next episode that I will be on. Can't wait for that. And again, seriously, thank you for joining on super late notice. I was just like, hey, what are you doing in like 30 minutes? And you were able to join. So that means a lot to me. We definitely got to record more in the future, because this show flew by fast. And
stay tuned, because that episode will be coming out probably either tomorrow or Wednesday.
Can't wait.
All you guys might want to check that out. See your boy Suns Geek. That had a few games, a few different segments in there. It was pretty good.
Can't wait, man. And again, seriously, this episode flew by. This was a great show. Love talking NBA and Suns with you. So go subscribe to both of us, you guys. And you already know the drill. If it has to deal with the Phoenix Suns, I'm going to make a video about it. Stay tuned, you guys. Lots more content on the way. Stay safe out there. Happy holidays. God bless you guys. Peace out. Win or lose, Suns for life. And go Suns. And go Bulls for any Bulls fans out there. Peace. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Jason, and everybody else that tuned in.
What's up, Suns Geek?